Hi, this is Ms. Bahak. Welcome to the Look Good, Move Well podcast, where you can get fresh ideas for your training, nutrition, and lifestyle to immediately put to use. Listen in with Marcus Philly, the creator of functional bodybuilding, and myself.
Hi, I'm Marcus Philly, and we're broadcasting from Revival Strength in San Rafael, California.
We'll be talking about avoiding burnout, keeping your passion alive for training, and fueling your body and mind so you can look good, move well now, and for years to come. Pull up a seat and take some notes. In this episode, Marcus shares exactly how he approaches meal prep for himself and his entire family, from pantry to fridge to stove to grill. Fueling yourself with delicious food all week long doesn't have to be a chore or take a ton of time. Get the full breakdown, including Marcus's tasty marinade with only 3 ingredients. Meal prep and cooking.
Yeah. Did I tell you about the podcast that I did? The guy clapped to sync everything up and get us going on the right foot.
That's interesting.
It was like it was this big, very dramatic thing. It was like, okay, don't move. I'm gonna start this off with a clap.
What?
And he just was like, ready. Okay, hey Marcus, how you doing? It was very threw me off. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, instead of a 3, 2, 1 now, that's what I should start using.
Just clap,
Yeah.
clap, and just like stare the person in the eyes and just be like, okay, you ready? Shh.
That's hilarious.
His name was Boomer too, which makes it even better.
Yeah.
I hope you're listening to this. Thank you for that. Yeah, food prep, man. Food prep is. I honestly feel like our client assessment and intake. We should, if we had a kitchen, like a full service kitchen in here, like that had all the, I would just be like, okay, come on in. All right, we're gonna do the scratch test. We're gonna do the toe touch. Okay, you're gonna do the step on the in body. Okay, now go into this room and make me breakfast, and just be like, see what happens, because that would tell you so much about the person's likelihood for success in any like health and fitness program that we're gonna put together, because it's going to involve eating. Mm-hmm. Nourishing themselves, and how are they going to do that? Are they going to have to like start from box cereal? Like, I know how to open a box of cereal and pour some milk, or are they going to do they know how to fry an egg, or are they going to basically be stopping at IHOP every day on the way to work and getting something to eat?
Right. Well, that was kind of one of the main reasons we dived into that episode. I think it was the first season where we talked about the Philly frittata. You introduced knife skills, mm-hmm. and some of the different forms of cooking vegetables and things like that. And I found that episode helpful. I also found we were on a retreat recently where we got to take a cooking class, and I found that super valuable because there's just a lot of details and nuances that I think can get overlooked, missed, or just assumed that people already do or know about.
Yeah.
But it's like these little things that can ultimately speed up the process or make it a little more efficient or enjoyable in some way. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm curious to hear some of your thoughts on today.
Yeah, let's think about it. Let's talk about it. I mean, I think that one. And the way I kind of suggested that we maybe approach this is to go through like a day of meal prep, what that can look like. Meal prep is now this kind of term that it's being attached to those of us living a healthy, active lifestyle that want to nourish ourselves well. We want to cook our own food, and we need to prep our meals ahead of time because we all have busy lives, and we can't exactly we can't set aside, 30 minutes 3 times a day to go into the kitchen and whip up something. We don't all have that kind of time, nor is that necessarily the goal that people want to achieve. So meal prep is like, for us here at Revival Strength, it's what we do on a Sunday. It's like, okay, Sunday, we're not in the gym, we're not necessarily working, we're going to prep out our meals, prep out our food for the week to come so that we can take a couple meals to the gym or a couple meals to work that are nourishing, that have good balance, that are good quality ingredients, that we cooked ourselves, that kind of hit on all the high notes of like what it means to feed yourself well.
Yeah, I think, and the little parts of like, how you approach that process from start to finish. Like, you go to the farmer's market or
Yeah.
Costco, and then you come home and you do X, Y, and Z. I think that would be fascinating for people.
Totally. Well, I mean, it's something that I take a lot of pride in, and I take a lot of time and care in thinking about every week, and it's something that we, depending on how busy life is getting, or how busy life is, it could be something that we find a lot of enjoyment in doing together as a family. I know it's something that we'll teach to our kids, as they get older and they can handle a knife and they can make their way around the kitchen without hurting themselves. Make sure we tell the story about how I let a knife stab my daughter, but we'll come back to that. She's okay. But yeah, it's without a doubt, like it's something that has the potential to be a really fun and engaging process that you can take a lot of joy in too. But yeah, you're right. It's every week. It starts with kind of mapping out your ingredients and what you're going to cook with, and it's gotten so routine now that we kind of have a system for thinking about how are we going to get our food sources and how are we going to source our ingredients for the week. I'd like to break it down into thinking about like, on a weekly basis, we're buying things that are perishable. The things that like we keep in the pantry that don't go bad, we always have a stockpile of. So there's kind of like, what do you need to have in your pantry? And then what do you need to have each week that could go bad that you're going to cook and eat and then replenish every week. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how we think about it. Like once a month, you got to upgrade your pantry. And then once a week, you got to go and get, your perishables, your fruits, your veggies, your meats, that kind of thing. So it's important for people to have a stocked pantry. I think that's kind of the first place that people overlook. It's like, okay, I want to go cook something. It's like, I hate going and traveling and staying in an Airbnb that's under stocked, because I get there and I'm like, oh my God, there's no spices. Oh, there's no cooking oil. Oh, they have nothing here for me. So if I want to cook something, I have to go to the store and buy all that stuff, which that stuff is like better to be bought in bulk because otherwise it gets costly. Mm-hmm. So, some simple things, having, a few spices that you like on your food. We like to have occasion seasoning, something like a paprika, maybe like a dried oregano, a dried basil, kosher salt, cracked pepper, black pepper. You can get by with just those. I think there was 6 I just named, but if you like a curry type spice, or if you like, an Italian seasoning or something like that, just pick something that, hits your palate well, and have some dried spices and then salt and pepper on hand always. I think having 2 different types of oil is great. I like olive oil and avocado oil. Those are always sitting right there next to my stovetop in like a little squeeze bottle. Okay, so the olive oil is great for salads, for throwing on vegetables. Avocado oil is great for cooking. It handles high heat really well, and it's got a pretty good omega fatty acid profile to it. I also like to have at least 1 to 2 different vinegars, so a balsamic vinegar or a red wine vinegar or rice vinegar, something like that. That's going to be great for mixing in with the oil for salad dressings, or mixing in for a marinade with, some of the spices, a little bit of oil, something like that. The last ingredient that we always have kind of near the stovetop is tamari. So tamari is basically gluten-free soy sauce, and we buy it in bulk and we put it in a little squeeze bottle, and it just adds a really great flavor. We're gluten-free in our family. I've talked about it on this show, I'm sure, before, but it's just a choice that we've made, and it helps digestion and keeps us, feeling and looking the way we want to look. So those are kind of the staples. In your refrigerator, this is also a kind of a pantry item, is like always having grass-fed butter on hand. That's another fat source. So the oils that I mentioned and grass-fed butter is another fat source that's just super high quality, super healthy, and makes everything, in the vegetable department taste better. Some of your starches you can put it on, makes everything taste great. And now there's so many options at the basic grocery store to get grass-fed butter that's affordable, and it's awesome. Kerrygold is the company that's been selling it for a long time. They have it at Costco, but I recently just was at the store and I saw that there's another couple European brands that are cheaper and they're also grass-fed, so I've been experimenting with that. Other dried things in your pantry, we always have some type of rice, that's dried and ready to throw in the pot or the rice cooker. I have oats, quick oats that we have on hand, and yeah, those are kind of some dried grains that we eat. We tend to buy gluten-free oats because sometimes oats can just be rolled in regular flour, making them kind of contaminated with gluten. And then usually just a pile of some type of potatoes, whether it be sweet potatoes or red potatoes, and those can hold over for a couple weeks, right? So you don't have to buy them every week. You always just have a bunch of potatoes on hand. So those kind of are the starches that our family eats: potatoes, rice, oats. Then there's the fats that I mentioned. There's the 2 oils, and then the butter. And then everything else at this point has just been flavoring and seasoning. So that makes for a great kind of foundation. And then additionally in the refrigerator, we have some condiments that are really helpful. There's always a hot sauce or a couple different hot sauces. These are, they add a ton of flavor. They're also negligible in terms of calories and energy. You're not going to get a ton of sugar from them. Get a hot sauce that's low in most of them don't have sugar if they're just hot sauces. If you're not into heat, that's okay. You can go and buy different varieties of mustard. So we have a Dijon mustard, we have a honey mustard, we've got some of the different stone ground seed mustards. Those are good to have on hand as well. Mustard is a great tool to use in dressings. Mizpah is dying over here. He's laughing. He's holding back laughter, and I don't know what's going on.
Just the way you said Dijon.
Dijon.
It was so crisp.
Oh yeah.
I used to call it Dijon.
Dijon. I mean, I think either one works. I don't know. But anyway, back to the mustard. If you put a squeeze of mustard in the next salad dressing you make, so like maybe a tablespoon of mustard, a cup of oil, and then a cup and a half of vinegar, and you mix that up, it'll be the best, it'll be the best salad dressing you've made in a long time.
Interesting.
It helps to emulsify the fat and the vinegar, so that 2 things that normally would separate and they can't mix together, the mustard helps mix them together, and so it becomes kind of a little creamy and just a nice consistency. So just a good tip for y'all. So then on that point, I usually always have a salad dressing that's just made in the fridge. So that's kind of it. It's 1 part oil to it's 1 part oil, 1 part vinegar, 2 parts oil. So I think I said the ratio is wrong. So you'd be 1 cup of vinegar, 2 cups of oil, and then a tablespoon or a squeeze of your mustard, and maybe a little salt and pepper, and then shake that up in a bottle and just keep it in the fridge, and that'll hold for a while. And so when you want to make a salad in the evening or something like that, you can just dress it real quick, right? Okay, so the pantry's set. You're ready for your week ahead. And now it's going to the store and simply buying fresh vegetables, some fruit, and meat, because everything else is already there. You already got some starches at home for your carbohydrate needs, and now you need to get some vegetables, you need to get some fruit, you need to get some meat. And I kind of just go to the store and I sort of look at what's available, or go to the farmer's market and look at what's available. The farmer's markets, if you guys have them in your area, are a great place to be shopping for your ingredients, because when you go there, what's available? Whatever's in season. It's fresh. These are farmers that just pick this produce or these vegetables, or they just butcher these, animals or whatever. This is what was there that morning on the farm, not what was, there 3 months ago and put in a can and jarred and or shipped overseas to get to you and look like it's brand new. So anyhow, it's like we go and we accumulate, a big box or a big, a cart full of vegetables and meat and, you know, uh, some fruit, and that's again going to be varied based upon this season. The other thing I failed to mention in the kind of the pantry area is like you can buy eggs. We always have a lot of eggs in the fridge. You can buy like a bunch in bulk, at one time, and they can hold really well in the fridge. So there's always some eggs in there too, because that's like a staple breakfast item for us. So now you've got your ingredients, you've got your pantry stuff, and now it's time to like set up for cooking and prep.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that two things that are time consuming. It's cooking vegetables, prepping vegetables, and then, cooking meat, right? And so that's where the bulk of the time gets spent. So we thought about lots of ways to kind of batch cook big volumes of these things that are going to be able to stay fresh for the next 3 to 6 days in the refrigerator in airtight glass containers. So that's something that we've invested in is, not plastic containers, but glass containers with really solid, like tight lids that can keep, a meal that we cook on Sunday fresh until Friday. And then when I put that meal into the, microwave and I heat that thing up on Friday, it tastes great and it's still just as fresh. And if you're concerned, you can prep meals on Sunday, put some in the freezer, and pull them out later in the week and heat them up accordingly, and they'll be just as good to go. So some of the ways that we, on a weekly basis will approach bulk cooking meat, so we'll start with meat, is, we have a grill, and it's got a big surface on it, so we'll typically marinate 1 or 2 different meats, chicken thighs, tri-tip steak, for example, and then we'll grill that on the surface, and that's a great way in like 20 to 30 minutes to get, up to 10 pounds of meat cooked, really quickly, which can then be, divided up, portioned out, and then made into meals. But I'll get into that in a minute. So the marinade for the listeners that we've been using a lot lately is, 1 part tamari, it's that gluten-free soy sauce, 1 part balsamic vinegar, 1 part olive oil, and then one of the seasonings of your choice. So we use the Cajun seasoning. Throw the Cajun seasoning in there, and then let that all mix in a you buy the 1 gallon Ziploc bags, and just let those meats sit in there. And you can, if you go to the store, let's say you go shopping on Saturday, you put all those ingredients in a bag with all the meat, and then you pull it out on Sunday and you throw it on the grill. It's going to be just like awesome flavor. The tamari is where you're going to get the salt content, so you get that salty flavor from that. And there's some sugars in the balsamic, which kind of caramelize when you grill. It's just such an awesome, easy, marinade that helps us get a bunch of meat relatively quickly. So that's one of the fastest, cleanest ways to kind of prep meat. Another way that we like to prep meat is with the slow cooker. So a crock pot is, basically a low temperature pot that just cooks consistently for long periods of time. So we'll start a Sunday. I'll take a big roast. So right now, like at the supermarket, there is a leg of lamb that's like $7.99 a pound. It's grass fed. It's like delicious, and we rub some of our spices on it, and we put it into the slow cooker dry, and we just turn it on low for 8 to 10 hours. So if I do that right when I wake up, then by dinner time it's like perfectly, falling off the bone, like tender, and there's minimal ingredients to it, and we didn't have to do any real prep. The prep time is like 2 minutes, and then the thing is cooking, and you don't have to think about it. So a slow cooker of a larger cut of meat that's got more like, it's not like going to be easy to cook in a 20-30 minutes. Like it's going to take some time to break down. Those are great to put in the slow cooker. Chicken thighs, much better to throw on the grill really quickly. So that's how we can food prep a ton of protein to start the week. And then one last, way that we prepare meat is just a pan, sautéing basically. If we buy ground beef, we buy grass-fed ground beef, or we'll buy, ground turkey, or sometimes ground pork. But, typically it's ground beef, and you can get it, we're getting it at just the local supermarket, not like the health food store. It's grass-fed. It's 90% lean. Tastes delicious. It's got a good fat content to it, a healthy omega fat content to it, and I'll throw 2 to 3 pounds of that into a pan, and then on medium heat I'll just add some salt and pepper, maybe a little bit of olive oil to the pan avocado oil to the pan before I put it down, and then let that brown up. And so in the matter of a total of 30 minutes of prep time, I've got 3 pounds of ground beef, I've got 4 pounds of chicken thighs that have been grilled, and I've got a leg of lamb that's basically cooking itself and I'm not doing anything for. And by the end of the day, I've got 8 to 10 pounds of meat that I can disperse into a bunch of meals for myself, for my wife, for our baby, and we're all going to be fed for the whole week. So that's, and there's tons of flavor in these things because we use some of those basic spices. I gave you guys the pantry tips. We did the low and slow on the fattier cut of leg of lamb, which has a ton of flavor from the fat that's going to kind of get cooked out of it, and we got some spices in there. So you can look forward to your meals every day, and we build every one of our meals around a core protein source. So we've got the meats ready. Additionally, we'll start a pot of rice. Okay, so that's 1 cup of rice, 1 cup of water, put it on low. That thing just, we actually have a rice cooker, but it's easy enough to make a pot of rice. If you don't have a rice cooker, it's a good investment. It's easy. So we do some white rice. Occasionally it'll be a different type of rice, but you can experiment with what feels good for you guys. I also will take, and this is kind of a cheat and a little bit of a hack, but I'll take a bunch of potatoes and I'll just put them in the microwave, and I'll just poke some holes in them and put it on the microwave for 20 minutes, and they come out pretty much perfectly cooked. There's not a lot of flavor there, but we aim to get most of our flavor out of our meats and then the veggies that we're going to prepare. And the rice and the potatoes are really just kind of starch accompaniments to our meal prep. So far we've got lamb, beef, chicken. We've got the potatoes and the rice. So we've got 5 components now, and now we need the veggies. And there's 2 ways that we approach veggies. We have the oven set to 375, chop up all different types of veggies, and just put them on sheet pans and put them in the oven with some salt, pepper, and avocado oil, and let them just roast. Roasting is just dry heat. You put it on the baking, setting of your oven, and after 30 to 45 minutes, these things are going to be crispy, and you don't have to do anything, and you've got multiple sheets going, so you cook a lot of veggies at once. Once you're done, pull them out, let them cool down, put them on a plate. Okay. The other veggie preparation is we have a wok, which is basically a giant, pan for the stovetop, which has got big, curled up sides. Really popular in Eastern Asian cooking. But basically you can put a bunch of ingredients in there, push it around, and nothing's going to pour out of the side of your pot. So we put a little bit of oil at the bottom, throw in mushrooms, green beans, peppers, whatever we got at the farmer's market that we chopped up really quickly, or maybe that were pre-chopped for you when you got it. Throw it into the wok, let it cook under medium to high heat. That's a high heat cooking device, and you can get some color on it. It starts to kind of soften up. Then I just squeeze the tamari on that. That's easiest way to get some flavor on there with a little cracked pepper, and then those are done. So now you've got all the veggies that you roasted, you've got all the veggies in your wok, you've got your 2 starches, and you got your 3 meats. And from that, we start to just basically build meals. We have, I've got 12 glass containers for myself. I've got 12 glass containers for my wife, and I put 5 ounces of meat in each one. I put about 150 grams of starch in each one. I put a big handful or a big spoonful of veggies in each one. And then, one last little, that's for my meals. And for hers, it's like 3 ounces of meat, a little less on the starch, same kind of roughly amount of vegetables. So we got all the, protein, we got carbs, we got veggies, we've got fat that was cooked in from the meats, from the oils in the vegetables, from the oils. And if you feel like you want a little extra fat, you can always squeeze a little more oil on there, put a little bit of grass-fed butter on there. And then one last little tool that we have is we got the hot sauce, remember? So give a little squeeze of hot sauce to each of the meals. I've even, looked in the grocery store for some jarred salsas, or kind of like pomodoro, or tomato sauces for pastas that have really few ingredients, that are super clean, no sugar in them, and I have those in the pantry. So then I'll take the jar of my favorite pasta sauce, and I'll pour a little bit of that onto maybe half of the meals. So that's another way of just adding some flavor to the meals, and it's again, it's super simple. It didn't require any work on my end to prepare. So all in all, it's that process uninterrupted can take maybe 2 hours, and now I've got lunch and late afternoon meal before dinner ready to go for the whole week. I also have meat ready for dinner when I get home, okay? And the meat that's left over, that we keep in another container, I pull out, I heat it up. I don't have to go through the process of cooking something from scratch every night. So that will be part of my dinner. And then to go with the dinner every night, I whip up a salad. And that just means chopping some lettuce. Another trick that I do is on Sundays, I even chop the veggies for the salad, and I have them in bags. So then it's just I just take the lettuce out, I take some carrots out, I take some cucumbers out, I take some peppers, I take some tomatoes out. I take the dressing that I told you guys to make already, that's ready in the fridge. I pour that over the salad. I got the meat there, and then that's dinner. And then breakfast is, the one meal that's kind of cooked hot each morning, and it's simply eggs, some egg preparation most days. That's in there. We've covered the Philly frittata, which is certainly something that lives in my fridge a lot of weeks out of the year. But if I didn't make a Philly frittata, then it's just a couple fried eggs in the morning to get the day started. So that was 25 minutes of just me going to town.
That was great.
But I mean, really though, it doesn't have to be complicated. If you hit those pantry ingredients and you have some good flavoring agents around and handy, if you know how to get into the store, find veggies and find meat, and then get out and use some of these devices that I talked about to kind of batch cook and cook bigger portions, then you're basically just putting stuff into glass containers and then storing really quality meals for the rest of the week.
Yeah, that was a legit breakdown. How it's done.
That's how we do it.
I'm trying to think. I mean, you explained it really well. I'm curious to hear if people have follow-up questions around any of the areas that you covered. If so, head over to speakpipe.com/lookgoodmovewell. Is there anything else you want to leave people with regarding this?
No, I mean, I know I just laid out kind of somewhat of an elaborate way to knock out all your meals for the week. Don't be intimidated by that. If you can't do that today or in the next month, that's okay. But try starting with one thing, right? Cook enough protein for the next 4 days, not just for tonight, and see how that helps keep you on track for what you want to accomplish. So start small and then keep working your way up to culinary mastery.
Culinary mastery. Regarding that, is there any specific resources that you would point people to?
Well, my good friend Nick Massey and we filmed some good videos that are going to be available on, I think, the CrossFit Journal in the next year. I filmed with him up at Ice Age Meals, and we got some good footage of us doing basically meal prep the way I just explained it.
Okay.
So, hopefully those are coming out soon, and you guys will be able to check those out. I'm sure they'll show up on my feed when they do release. But in the meantime, honestly, go and pick up a book on like slow cooker recipes. Pick up a basic book on marinades and salad dressings, right? Like, again, if you can get some of those like key flavor agents, and then like some of the easy, like, I don't have to do anything dishes, kind of, you can start to understand what flavors are going to work well. Then I think you're going to set yourself up for success, because bulk cooking doesn't have to taste bad. It can taste great. And if it tastes great, you're going to be so motivated to do it every week, because you're like, man, I feel good, taste good, I'm looking good, and man, it wasn't even that hard. It's way cheaper than going out and shopping at this, eating out every day.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Thanks so much for listening, guys.
See you next time.